Yes, I love technology, but not as much as you see. But I still love technology, always and forever.
Hello, and welcome back one last time for our study of the TechWise family, everyday steps for putting technology in its proper place. Again, this book is by an author named Andy Crouch, and I highly recommend reading this book. I know we've kind of went through it together, but there's a lot more in this book that we haven't had time to cover, and so I still encourage you to get it. I still recommend you reading it. Again, you may not agree with every single thing he says, but there's a lot of really good stuff in here. You can find it on Amazon. You can probably find it at Lifeway, or they can order it for you at Lifeway. The TechWise family, Andy Crouch. Even if you've already been through this entire study, it's worth getting a copy. It's worth reading. So I recommend you do that. Today, we are bringing this study to a close. We are going to talk about the final two TechWise commitments. And we're going to do these last two commitments together because they comprise the third and final section of Andy Crouch's book. And the final section of his book is simply titled, What Matters Most? What matters most? Before we kind of narrow this down to the world of technology, let's start as broad as possible. So what matters most? In the grand scheme of life, what is the most important? What ultimately matters? Now, depending on your worldview, there are many different answers to this question. Family is a very popular answer. A lot of people say family is what matters most. Some say leaving the world better than we found it is what matters most. Love, kindness, tolerance, peace, all of those are popular answers. However, as Christians, as followers of Jesus Christ, we don't have to debate this topic. Jesus already answered this question for us. You see, in the scripture in Matthew chapter 22, verse 36, Jesus is asked this question. Matthew 22:36, Jesus is asked, Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? You know, really what he's asking is, hey, Jesus, what's the most important? What matters most? There are a lot of laws, there are a lot of rules, there are a lot of regulations, there are a lot of philosophies about life. What matters most? And Jesus answers. Keep reading that same passage, Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 through 39. Jesus said, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. What matters most? Love God, love people. That's what matters most. That is the most important thing in the world. Love God and love people. Therefore, as we bring this study to a close, we have to look at our use of technology, and we have to ask ourselves a difficult question. Is my use of technology helping or hindering me from loving God and loving people? If that's what matters most, loving God and loving people, is technology helping me to love God more and love people more, or is technology hindering me from loving God more and loving people more? It's a tough question. We're going to look at that this morning. We're going to do so. As we do so, we're going to conclude our study and look at these final two TechWise commitments directed at loving God and loving people. So let's start with the greatest commandment. Let's start with the most important thing in the world, according to Jesus. Love God. Now, how do you love God? How do you express your love for God? You ever thought about that? How do we express our love for God? While there are many different ways to do this, I think we can all agree that one fundamental expression of our love for God is worship. That's how we show our love for God. We worship Him. When we love someone, when we love something, we have an undeniable desire to express that love. It's called worship. David writes in Psalm chapter 29, verse 2. Psalm 29, verse 2, Ascribe to the Lord the glory due His name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of holiness. Listen to me. Worship is fundamentally part of what it means to be human. It is part of our human nature. Every single human being will worship something. It's an undeniable fact. Some worship self, some worship money, some worship fame or power or prestige. Whatever it is, every single human being worships something. It's in our DNA. However, we were created to worship one thing and one thing only, and that's God. We were created to worship God, to love God. And that's why this is the first and greatest commandment, to love God. And while there are different ways to worship, today I want to focus on what is primarily one of the basic ways we worship, and that is singing. Singing. Singing to God, singing our praises to God, singing about our love for God is one of the most fundamental and primary ways we worship Him. In fact, this is so important that we gather every single Sunday to do this. We gather every Sunday to sing our praises to God. Now, I hope Sunday's not the only time you do this, okay? This is something we should do always. We should be doing on a regular basis. All right? Again, Psalmist David writes in Psalm 66, verses 1 and 2, he says, "Shout for joy to God, all the earth. Sing the glory of His name. Give to Him glorious praise." Later in Psalm 33, verses 1 through 3. Psalm 33, verses 1 through 3. David says, "Shout for joy in the Lord, O you righteous. Praise befits the upright. Give thanks to the Lord with the lyre. Make melody to Him with the harp of 10 strings. Sing to Him a new song. Play skillfully on the strings with loud shouts." Later in the New Testament, Paul is writing to the church at Colossae. And in Colossians chapter 3, verse 16, Paul says this. Colossians chapter 3, verse 16, "Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God." Paul says sing. David tells us to sing. I've said this many times before. I don't know what it is about music. I don't know what it is about singing, but music is a universal language. Okay, every culture throughout all time has made music. It connects with us in a way that is inexplicable. Okay, music touches us. Music moves us. It inspires us in powerful ways. This is why from the beginning of time to the end of time, and listen, even into eternity, we will sing. We will sing praises to God. We will sing as an act of worship. Now, accepting this is true, let's bring this home to our current discussion. Technology. What role does technology play in our singing, in our worship? Does technology help us or does it hinder us? As with many of the issues we've discussed, the answer is complicated because it can be both. Technology has been both a great help and a great hindrance to our ability to worship. Positively speaking, technology allows us to have great quality music everywhere. And we can amplify that music to large crowds. It gives us the ability to worship with great music anytime, anywhere. It's amazing. However, technology can be abused. We've been talking about that for weeks now. And when technology is abused, it can have negative consequences. In fact, Andy Crouch thinks, and I agree with him, Andy Crouch talks about 2 ways that our worship has been negatively affected by technology. And he says this: because of technology, we've quit singing and we've quit playing. We've quit singing and we've quit playing. Number one, we've quit singing. You see, before technology, we sang. That's the only way we had to make music. We didn't have iPods. We didn't have CDs. We didn't have cassette tapes. If we wanted to hear music, we made music. And so we sang. We sang in the home. We sang in church. And we all did. It's something everybody did. Yes, we've always had worship leaders. For instance, now we have someone who gets up and leads us in worship, but they weren't amplified. They just started singing and everyone joined in and we all sang together and we all heard one another. This was good because corporate singing is an act of worship, absolutely. But it's not only an act of worship. You see, corporate singing, what we do on Sunday mornings when we come together as the church and we sing praises, it not only is an act of worship, but it instructs us. It teaches us theology. It encourages us. It lifts our spirits. And again, I'm not saying amplification is bad. It's not bad. In fact, it's necessary in most churches. We use it at our church. But it can be abused. You see, what happens sometimes is that too many worship services have become concerts. We turn up the music too loud, we turn up the leaders too loud, and it becomes a concert, not a worship service. What's the difference? Well, see, the difference is that worship is meant to glorify God. It's meant to instruct and uplift the worshiper. Worship is an active experience. We all participate. A concert is entertainment. You see, a concert is passive in nature. You go to a concert and you sit and you listen. Nothing is required of you. It's dark. You don't see other people very much, or you see the stage. They've got lights on the stage. The focus is on the stage. The focus is on the entertainer. Sure, you can sing along if you want to, but the music's so loud nobody can hear you. You can't even hear yourself because you're not supposed to hear yourself. You're not supposed to hear the crowd. At a concert, you're supposed to hear the entertainer. You're not supposed to see other people. You're supposed to see the entertainer. Now listen to me. There's nothing wrong with going to a concert. I've been to many concerts. They're a lot of fun. But that's not what we're doing on Sunday morning. Sunday morning is not a concert. When the church gathers, it's not about entertainment. It's about worship. And when we turn worship into a concert, we're transforming something that is supposed to be active, worship, into something that is passive. Okay? Entertainment. And when we do this, we're losing something. Let's be honest. Too many professing Christians don't attend church very regular anyway. But even when they do attend church, they don't sing. They stand and they listen. That's not what worship is meant to be. Okay? It's not a concert. It's an active experience where we worship. We sing. You need to sing. I need to sing. Listen, not everybody sings great. I know it. Trust me. I sing horrible. If you go to my church, you know this. I'm a horrible, horrible singer. But I still sing out loud because it's an act of worship and it's something we do together. Again, David writes in Psalm 95:1, "Oh, come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation." We've all heard the joke about making a joyful noise, okay? Not all of us can sing well, I know. But we can make a joyful noise. We can worship the Lord through song. All right, we cannot allow technology or over-amplification to steal our ability to make a joyful noise. We cannot allow volume and spotlights and smoke to obscure who we are and what we're doing. Listen, when we gather on Sunday mornings to worship, you're not supposed to hear one person sing. Yes, we have worship leaders, and they are to start us off. They're to help us know when to sing and what to sing. But you're not supposed to hear just the leader. You're supposed to hear the congregation. You're supposed to hear the people singing beside you and in front of you and behind you. We should hear everyone singing because it's corporate worship. We're worshiping together. Furthermore, we should see the entire church singing as we worship. Here at Eastern Oaks, you know, we don't dim the lights in the sanctuary. We don't spotlight the leaders because it's not about the leaders. We don't want to hide in the dark while those in the light entertain us. It's not a concert. We are there to worship together as the people of God, and so we keep all the lights on. There is no smoke. It's not a show. It's worship. We want to see each other and hear each other worshiping together. It is encouraging when I hear the church singing together. And again, technology is great, and technology can help us do that, but we have to be careful not to abuse technology so it becomes something different. So one thing Crouch says is we've quit singing. The other thing he says is we've quit playing. Because technology has given us easy everywhere music, society as a whole is giving up on making their own music. This is not just his opinion. Multiple studies have showed that the number of people who are learning a musical instrument is on the decline. Every year, less and less and less people try to learn a musical instrument. For instance, the piano, which used to be a staple in the home for centuries, everyone had a piano in their home, can now be found in fewer and fewer and fewer homes every single year. Why? In short, we're getting lazy, folks. Okay? Now, I get it. Again, not everyone is a musician. Okay? I can't play a lick. I've tried. I took guitar lessons for like 2 years. Okay? Horrible at it. But I tried. Okay? Fewer and fewer people are even trying. Okay? We have iPods now. We have iPhones that have all our music on it. So why learn to play music? We can listen to other people playing music. It's not the same. Right? Remember what David said. David said this in Psalm 33, verses 1 through 3. David says, "Shout for joy in the Lord, O you righteous. Praise befits the upright." In verse 2, he says, "Give thanks to the Lord with the lyre." That's an instrument. "Make melody to him with the harp of 10 strings." That's another instrument. "Sing to him a new song. Play skillfully on the strings." That's an instrument. "With loud shouts." David says, pick up an instrument. Learn how to play an instrument. Learn how to make music. Make your own music. Easy everywhere music is great. I love having my iPhone so I can listen to worship music anywhere I am. Okay? But we can't let technology take away real music. We can't let technology cause us to give up on real live music. We need to encourage more people to pick up an instrument and play for the glory of God. If you have children, okay, tell them to put down the iPhones and the iPads and give them a piano or a guitar or a flute. I don't care. Let them try to play something. Let them try. They may not be good at it. Let them try. For all these reasons, we want to make TechWise commitment number 9. TechWise commitment number 9. We learn to sing together rather than letting recorded and amplified music take over our lives in worship. We learn to sing together rather than letting recorded and amplified music take over our lives in worship. Now, before we move on, let me remind you, technology is not bad. Recorded music is not bad. Amplified music is not bad. But we do need to keep it in its place. Okay? We can't let go of real singing. We can't let go of real music. As a family, we need to sing together. As a church family, we need to sing together. Okay, I sing at my house all the time. My kids hate it. It's horrible. I have a horrible voice. But guess what? They're going to hear me sing, whether they like it or not. Okay, we need to sing. We've got to continue to strive to do what David said, which is sing him a new song. If you can write new songs. If you can play new songs. We've got to sing. We've got to worship. It is part of how we express our love to God. It is part of how we encourage one another. Worship is not a passive spectator sport. Worship is an active expression of our love for God. Don't be afraid to sing out. This is a problem I know with a lot of men. A lot of men come into church and we say, I ain't singing. I'm just going to stand and listen. Sing. Sing out. I don't care if you can sing or not. Sing. Sing. My God is worthy of my worship. And I don't care how bad it sounds. I'm going to worship Him because He's worthy. All right. We need to sing. The good, the bad, the ugly, we need to sing. All right. We began by asking the question, what matters most? And when Jesus was asked this question, He responded by saying, we love God. But He didn't stop there. He went on to give another commandment, which is in Matthew chapter 22, verse 39. Jesus says the second commandment is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Once again, we don't want to ignore the positive, okay? So technology has obviously helped us love our neighbor easier, better, more, whatever you want to call it, okay? Technology has helped in many ways. For instance, the evolution of transportation, which is technology, makes it possible for us here at the Eastern Oaks, for instance, to go to Mexico every year and build houses for those in need. Okay, we're loving our neighbor, but we can only do that through technology. Telephones, computers, with video calling make it possible to seem close when you're miles apart. We can talk to people. We can encourage people. We can send money around the world. We can find out when tragedy strikes on the other side of the planet, and we can help. So technology has done a lot. Technology has helped us love our neighbor as ourselves. So that's great. And again, television, internet, all of that has done a great job. However, we still have to ask, can it be abused? Can technology hinder our attempts to love our neighbor? And obviously the answer is yes, folks, okay? As with any issue we've discussed, when technology is abused, the positives often become the negatives. Yes, technology gives us the ability to have a virtual presence anywhere in the world. However, listen carefully. Your virtual presence is not the same as your real presence. If you have parents who live off or children who live far off, would you rather talk to them on the phone? Would you rather look at their pictures on Facebook? Or would you rather have them physically present in your home, having a meal together? Okay, your virtual presence is great, but it's not the same as your real presence. And what's even worse is when we actually are physically present with someone, but our addiction to technology means that our faces are buried in our phones, and even when we're physically present with someone, we're not there. Technology has made it very easy to not love our neighbor. All right? As we prepare to end this study, tech-wise commitment number 10 is this. We show up in person for the big events of life. We learn how to be human by being fully present at our moments of greatest vulnerability. We hope to die in one another's arms. The final commitment of this study is to be present. Not virtually present, physically present. Live your life with other people. Even at the difficult moments, the vulnerable moments, the painful moments, live life with people. And when you're with people, put the technology away. Put your phone away. Put your tablet away. When you're with someone else, be with them. What does this mean? It means that we become intentional about sharing our life with other people. Listen to me. This is going to be tough. You ready? Instead of looking for excuses to avoid people, instead of looking for excuses to avoid events like a wedding or a funeral or graduation, make a commitment to be there. Even when you'd rather sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Even when you'd rather sit home and play on the computer. Be there in person. And listen, when you're there, put your phone away. Stop Instagramming and Snapchatting everything. Really stop Snapchatting altogether, but that's another issue. Stop being worried about getting everything documented on social media. Listen to me. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're not going to remember a Facebook post. But you are going to remember the moments that you spent with people. Be present in the moment. Make a commitment to go to those big events, those important events. Technology continues to isolate us from the world. Meanwhile, God has told us from the very beginning, we've looked at this already. Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. Then the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. It's not good that we're isolated, and yet technology continues to isolate us. We've got to participate in society, and when we participate, we've got to commit to be present in the moment. Even something as simple as going out to dinner with your spouse or your kids or your extended family. When you go to dinner, put your phone down. Put it on mute. Better yet, leave it in the car. Be present in the moment. If you're doing nothing but sitting there and staring off in the distance with your own thoughts, that's better than being buried in a device. Because when you're buried in your device, no one's going to speak to you because they think they're disturbing you. Put your phones away. Leave your tablets and your computers and your video games at home. Be present in the moment. Okay, refuse to check every single notification that comes in. In the final page of his book, Andy Crouch writes this. We are meant to be family. Not just marriages bound by vows and the children that come from them, but a wider family that invites others into our lives and even to the threshold of our last breath to experience vulnerability and grace, sorrow, and hope, singing our way homeward. We are meant for so much more than technology can give us. Above all, we are meant for the wisdom and the courage that it will never give us. We are meant to spur one another along on the way to a better life, the life that really is life. Why not begin living that life together now? Technology is great, guys. Lets us do all kinds of really neat things. But it can also be abused. And we are living in the midst of an epidemic of technology addiction. It's hurting our marriages. It's hurting the way we're raising our children. Just this past week, there was a USA Today article about a school teacher who asked her class to write a paper about what invention they wish was never invented. Out of her class of around 20 or 21, 4 kids wrote that they wish the cell phone had never been invented because their parent was on it all the time. We're abusing technology to the point that it's harming our marriages, it's harming our children, it's harming society as a whole. Technology is great. I'm not saying throw it out. I'm saying put it in its proper place. Use it when it's good. Put it down when it's not. Again, most of what we've talked about has come from the TechWise family by Andy Crouch. I've added a lot of other stuff via studies and things like that. If you have any questions, if you want to know about any of the studies I've talked about, any of the statistics I've shared, feel free to email me. Admin, A-D-M-I-N, admin at easternoaks.org. Email us here at the church and we can answer any questions you may have. All right. Appreciate you joining us. Stay tuned for our very next study. We're going to begin that shortly, so stay tuned to find out more about that. Let's have a word of prayer as we leave. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today and thank you for your blessings. We thank you for technology. We thank you for the ability that you've given us to create. But Lord, I pray that we don't abuse it. I pray that we keep it in its proper place. And I pray that you give us the courage and the wisdom to do that. We love you. We thank you. We worship you. In your name I pray. Amen. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yes, I love technology, but not as much as you see. But I still love technology, always and forever.